In 1982, the General Motors assembly plant in Fremont, California, was completely out of control. On some days, up to 20% of the workforce simply didn't show up. The workers who clocked in were known to actively sabotage the vehicles, leaving loose glass bottles inside door panels to rattle and annoy future customers. Management and the United Auto Workers Union spent more time fighting than building cars. The union maintained a backlog of over 5,000 unresolved grievances, and wildcat strikes regularly paralyzed production. General Motors enforced one absolute rule on the factory floor: the assembly line could never stop. If a worker spotted a missing steering wheel or faulty brakes, the car kept moving. Quality was entirely secondary to volume, and problems were pushed into the yard to be fixed later. By treating employees as easily replaceable parts in a relentless machine, the company produced cars riddled with defects. With scrap rates and costs soaring, GM permanently shuttered the Fremont facility in March 1982, laying off thousands of people. At the same time, consumers were turning away from massive, gas-guzzling Detroit sedans. Japanese automakers were producing smaller, highly reliable, and fuel-efficient cars, rapidly capturing market share and pushing the American auto industry toward a financial cliff. To survive, GM needed a first-hand look at Japanese manufacturing techniques. Toyota, meanwhile, faced looming political threats of U.S. import tariffs and needed to figure out how to operate a factory with American union labor. In 1984, these fierce competitors struck a deal. They each contributed $200 million to create a joint venture called New United Motor Manufacturing, Incorporated, taking over the abandoned Fremont facility. Toyota took operational control, turning a dead factory into a live experiment. They would attempt to implement their highly disciplined production philosophy in the exact environment where American manufacturing had just spectacularly failed. When it came time to staff the new plant, Toyota made a highly controversial decision. Instead of hiring a new, non-union workforce, they agreed to rehire the exact same Fremont employees who had engaged in the strikes and sabotage just 2 years prior. To prepare this workforce, Toyota flew hundreds of the American union members to their master plant in Aichi, Japan, for weeks of intensive, hands-on training. On the Japanese factory floor, the Americans experienced a massive culture shock. Instead of yelling at subordinates to keep the line moving, Japanese managers acted as mentors, stepping in to assist workers and treating them as the leading experts on their specific tasks. Toyota guaranteed that if workers figured out ways to make their jobs more efficient, they would not be laid off as a result. Instead of trying to find a scapegoat to punish when a defect occurred, supervisors and teams worked together to identify the mechanical root cause. The toxic environment at Fremont had never been an issue of bad people. Toyota recognized that a functional factory required changing the physical behaviors of the workforce and providing them with an entirely different system of managerial support. The physical embodiment of this new philosophy hung directly above the assembly line. It was a simple rope known as the Andon Cord. Under GM, halting production was a fireable offense. Now, every single worker had the strict obligation to pull the cord the moment they encountered a defect, a safety issue, or fell behind their standard work cycle. When the cord was pulled, the line stopped, a chime played, and a team leader immediately arrived to help. By isolating problems immediately, the team could fix the root cause before the car moved forward, allowing the manufacturing process to continuously improve. 3 months after NUMMI opened, the first cars rolled off the line. Using the same workers and the same building, the plant's quality metrics matched Toyota's elite facilities in Japan. Absenteeism dropped from 20% to a steady 2%. While this chart shows NUMMI's defect rates plummeting to near zero, across the rest of the company, legacy managers rejected the new methods. Giving factory workers the power to stop the line threatened their traditional authority, and plant managers refused to adopt the cord because their personal bonuses were tied exclusively to the sheer volume of cars produced. Senior executives failed to grasp the psychology behind the process. Management dispatched photographers to the Fremont factory to capture every square inch of the floor, ordering their own plants to replicate the physical layout, while completely missing the culture of mutual trust. General Motors spent 25 years with total access to the most successful manufacturing turnaround in industrial history, yet they proved incapable of scaling those proven methodologies across the rest of their organization. By 2008, decades of ignoring these lessons finally caught up with Detroit. Crippling legacy costs, persistent quality issues, and deep structural inefficiencies pushed the American giant to the point of total collapse. In 2009, General Motors filed for bankruptcy and required a massive government bailout. As part of a brutal restructuring process, the company abruptly severed its ties with the NUMMI joint venture. Left as the sole owner of a massive California facility during a severe economic recession, Toyota determined it could not sustain operations alone. On April 1, 2010, the final car rolled off the line, and thousands of dedicated workers lost their jobs. The closure was a devastating end to a successful experiment. The Fremont auto workers had adapted, learned a completely new way of operating, and maintained world-class quality for over 2 decades, only to be sacrificed for the financial failures of executives thousands of miles away. The massive 5 million square foot factory didn't stay empty for long. In 2010, the entire complex was purchased for just $42 million by a young Silicon Valley startup. Tesla Motors inherited more than just the building. They gained access to the seasoned local supply chain and the manufacturing infrastructure that Toyota had refined over 25 years. The exact same factory floor that birthed America's worst cars, and then its most efficient cars, was retooled to manufacture the Model S sedan. Tesla utilized the facility's existing press lines and layout to begin scaling their production. The history of the Fremont factory shows that manufacturing success was never about geography or the inherent quality of the workers. It was always a question of the management system those workers were asked to follow. When provided with a culture of trust rather than a culture of blame, the American workforce proved they could build some of the highest-rated vehicles in the world. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos.